morning. This is Jennifer over at Suzoo's Woolworks here in Bandera, Texas. What you're seeing before you is my not so lazy daisy. When I was looking at breeds of flowers, and there was the lazy daisy, the snoozy daisy, this was actually supposed to be a completely different flower, but as I started to lay it out and realized that it looks more like a combination of flowers, I decided to call it the not so lazy daisy. I love working with color. I love working with texture. I actually have fiber in there to create this sort of dense pop out right here. I went ahead and I used just a standard kind of a chain situation for my embroidery here, just to hold down those, and even did a little bit of a braiding. This is Tina's imagination actively channeling through me. But what I figured out quickly was I'm working with this bamboo here. This is DMC thread. I still struggled with the DMC, but the bamboo for sure does not want to go through the tip of this needle. And this needle is actually very big. If you look at it, this is not your standard embroidery needle. But because I'm working with a thicker yarn, I can't try to make this yarn go through a tinier needle. So I had to go up one. But the other thing I struggled with was getting it through the head of the needle. And so what I did was I took some standard cotton nylon sewing thread, ran it through, so you can see if you look at it, it's running through the same direction so that you don't get it tangled. And that way I can pop my thread through a lot faster. And it really is that simple. So now that I've got my thread on here, I will not double it up. So here I have 2 or 3 strands going at a time, and I'm not really picky. You can see the way that I sew is kind of just feels almost beginnerish or childlike. That's my style. I will probably still be like that 20 years from now. But the other thing I wanted to show you that really started to bug me a little bit is the fraying of my fabric. Now this doesn't bother me, this puckering here. So you see this, I had it actually tacked down a little bit. I had put some sticky glue, but I'm okay with that, because if you ever look at the wildflowers, I could even go back in and do some, almost the same color here, but enough thread work just to give it that sort of that dimension that lifts it up. I like having a little puffy there. So this doesn't bother me, but some of the things that bother me are the fraying. So what I figured out quickly is I can gently go in and just clip. And this is a big deal for me. This is big. I like this because I can go back and clean up my edge. And that's probably just a normal tip and trick that anybody can do. The other thing too is when I'm doing my thread, I'm very aware of where I ended and where I began, or where I'm going to begin. And so in this case, these aren't matchy-matchy. So since I'm not in an orange section, I'm actually not going to start here again. I'm going to find another spot where I might be able to pick up and leave off again. So here, and the other thing too is this can be fixed down the road. I can't stand that. I don't know why it does it sometimes. I'll pull too tight perhaps, but again, this is coming from, I consider myself to be an advanced beginner. I like the art and the dyeing of the fabric and the design layout more than the sewing. That's not my strong point yet, but it'll get there. And again, as I tell everybody, even my needle felting is childlike. So, but those are my little tips for the day, little things that I have to go through, and you can see, you just have to take, and I would use smaller scissors. Unfortunately, being in my shop, I cannot find a darn thing. But that works too. But you can get those frayed edges off and then go back in and do your stitching. Hope you enjoyed.